Hello. So yeah, I couldn't think of a clever title for this stream. I've got the new flight simulator all working now, and I was having great fun with it. So I'm a bit late for the stream for that reason because I was actually flying a plane just before the stream started. I took it off from the airfield that's near my house and landed it on a nearby RAF airfield without crashing the fuck out of it. So I guess I did an alright job. Considering it's an actual proper flight simulator, not an arcadey sort of flying game. But yeah. But again, when you're using an actual joystick, it's not too hard to control planes. It's just awful trying to use the keyboard and mouse to do it, just because it doesn't, yaw properly. All right, thanks, Cheeky Breaky Gopnik. I can't remember what your question was, but all right, Shed on Fire. Yeah, so as I said, can't think of a good notification for this stream. Don't forget to like it if you're coming on. But yeah, the new Microsoft Flight Simulator is really fun, and I especially like the fact that they 3D modeled all of the kind of It's not a spray bottle Shed on Fire. It's a Logitech Attack 3 joystick. I need to clean a bit more of the dust off of it because I had to spend ages finding where I'd stored it earlier. So I gave it a quick wipe down. But yeah, it's the Attack 3 is one of those really good old retro joysticks that everything has to be more complicated than these now. But wow, officially, no, I can't fly military planes. I mean, if I put my joystick into the simulator, I'm sure I could take them off and crash them. But, but I've just been playing some of the new flight simulator because I just thought it's really cool how they've done all the modeling. Yeah, in the new flight simulator basically, yeah, you can find your house on the map, although it won't look exactly like your house. But yeah, it uses kind of like a Google Earth kind of thing, and then it puts the 3D models of buildings down based on where they are on the satellite image. So it is actually thorium radioactive cow. That's very interesting, isn't it? It's certainly not good for your health, is it? I don't think it's going to be healing you wearing thorium around your neck. All right, that's all right, Marcus. Thanks. Yeah. All right, Mike. I've been really enjoying the new flight simulator. Almost didn't come on because I was enjoying playing flight simulator so much before the stream started. I'm gonna definitely go straight back on that as soon as I finish streaming. What's going on, Jamie? But I hope you enjoy the stream anyway. What mask have you got, SCP-049? It prevents your DNA from being damaged by scrambling your DNA. That's pretty amazing, isn't it, radioactive cow? Hello to you in Spain. Hola, I suppose is the way you say hello to people in Spain, isn't it? Favorite Battlefield game? Probably Bad Company 2. I mean, the older ones are technically a bit better, but I kind of lost interest in them after Bad Company 2. I just prefer the older ones. I'm good, thank you, Military Madness. Yeah, Mike. Oh, it's good because it's not something that involves drinking, spending money once you bought the flight simulator. There's a lot of good things like that. But yeah, if you didn't hear, Mike, the really cool thing with the new flight simulator is basically it uses stuff like Google Earth, and then with the pictures of where all the houses are, it models them with 3D models. So basically, the really cool thing is when you're flying the plane, although it won't look exactly like your house, all the buildings are sort of in the right place rather than it just being, there's a village or a town here, so here's a load of random buildings like they do in most flight simulators. It's really kind of uncanny when you're flying. You're like, oh, that's actually where I live kind of thing. What I'll do later on, obviously I'll send it as you a PM on Twitter. I'll fly above your house. I'll take a screenshot and you can see how good you think it looks compared to the real one. Hope they go all right, Jamie. But yeah, I know like all the school exams and uni stuff's gone to shit, hasn't it, at the moment? All right, MG? Yeah, I really like Bad Company Straight 6 Diesel. So Marcus says, one question about the S10 FM12 voice diaphragm cover. There are claims that the coloured version is for export, for CBR and use or to display ranks. Yeah, there's bits of mixed truth in all that, Marcus. Basically, the idea was that you could have different colours on it depending on what they were doing. So originally, obviously, the British Army just used black for all of them, like you'd see in the standard S10s. I'll make sure I am hype. I'll have to check the options, but yeah, I'm getting it really into it now. It's addictive, isn't it, flight simulators? But yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, but I know when the police use them, generally they use the colours to indicate the rank of the officer if they're wearing them. And I think for export, they had done that as well to separate them from military ones. So essentially, I think the idea was that civilians and people would have blue on it to indicate they're a civilian, not a military soldier. Well, you're at least protected, weren't you, Elliot? I can't sub you right now, Military Madness, but I'm sure if other people want to, they can do. Yeah, potatoes are fine, gas mask boy, nothing wrong with potatoes. Yeah, the funniest thing I found hype though, I might have to screenshot it and send it you. I don't live too far from a place called Blenheim Palace, which is pretty, popular with tourists. And I don't think the Duke of Marlborough would be very happy with how Blenheim Palace looked on a flight simulator though. But yeah, the actual what was I going to say? The Blenheim Palace looks more like a tenement block in the middle of a park, which did make me laugh. But yeah, I'm pretty sure hype it is on the physics one, but I'll double check. But it definitely feels a lot floatier in a good way. When you turn it, it doesn't kind of turn the exact amount. It kind of seems to be doing that a bit when you're turning, which seems to be correct. But obviously, I'll have a look in. But I'm sure it is set to a proper flight model because I couldn't control it properly with the keyboard, before I dug out the excellent. I'll have to look for that. But yeah, because the thing I was finding as well is obviously when you use the numpad, like the default controls, which obviously is not how you want to do it, I was ending up making a plane just kind of over pitch everywhere, where obviously with this you can kind of slightly balance out controls, can't you? And obviously you can put a little bit of pressure on the turn or climbing or whatever. It's not like you're going every time you press a key like with the keyboard. But yeah, it's nice using the old Logitech joystick again. It's one of those things where I've not used it for ages because I've not played any flight games that have needed them. Oh yeah, I was putting it into massive spins, yeah, where it was crashing into the ground. So yeah, since using the joystick, I managed to land the plane successfully without obviously killing everybody on board. So yeah, joystick works properly. I'm definitely gonna have to play some more of the joystick. Because the problem is I found with a lot of other flight games recently is a lot of them would just work fine with a mouse or a controller to the point where I sort of thought, oh, it's a bit of effort to get the joystick out and clear desk space for it. No, you have to pay for it. It's a new flight simulator, Microsoft Flight Simulators. I think it's like 50 quid. It's fairly expensive. I don't know, Cheeky Breaky, why you keep asking me about my sources of income. Isn't that a confidential sort of thing? I've explained it over and over times before on videos. It just gets a bit irritating when I keep getting asked constantly. But yeah, I bought it on Steam, and I just bought the basic version because I didn't want to pay more and more for just extra planes to be included. But yeah, after payday, I thought I would get it just because, I haven't actually bought a game in ages that I really enjoy just sinking time into. Yeah, that'd be a more legitimate thing, Yorkshire Tom. Only joking, but yeah. I just find it a bit strange when people constantly want to know everything about what you do, even when I've explained it before. But obviously the problem with all the corona stuff at the moment is lots of people don't know how long we're going to have jobs for. PlayStation 1, technically, but does Windows 3.1 count, Crazy Egg? Because we have a Windows 3.1 computer in the other room. Actually, it might be in the attic now, but a big kind of monolith tower where it runs DOS on it. And you can run Windows 3.1 if you type win into DOS and press enter. Hello, God Mapping. Yeah, I ended up using to start with one of the Cessna's hype. I think it's just because it's one of the quite common Cessna's because I wanted to play, with a just standard kind of plane for the time being. Wow, if that comes into it, I'd definitely buy a hype because yeah, flying a Vulcan would be amazing. There's not really a theme for it at all, guard mapping. We can talk about any military stuff. We're on about flight simulator at the moment. If people want to bring up movies and games, I'd happy to talk about that. Well, my 3.1 can't run Crisis. This could definitely run Crisis because I'm running a new flight simulator on ultra settings and I've had no FPS drops or anything. So it clearly has no issues there. It's actually quite well optimized because I heard people complaining about that, but on my system, works fine. I did have a fairly hard I did have a fairly hard time setting up the joystick, but then I found I had to download some additional Logitech joystick software, and as soon as I did that, Flight Simulator recognised I had a joystick installed. But before then, it just, even though the computer could see it, Flight Simulator wouldn't see it. Yeah, the original Arnie film, Predator's great. I'm not a massive fan of Predator 2, but I've not watched it in ages. Not a fan of Alien vs. Predator, but I like the old Alien vs. Predator games. Favourite World War II German tank, the King Tiger, but German tanks are either under-engineered or over-engineered. Is it possible, do you know, Hype? I don't know if it will be possible, but do you think people could mod helicopters into it? Because I'd be really interested if later on people put helicopters into it, just because it'd be interesting flying those as well as the planes. Wow, you're not meant to use gas mask for airsoft. Ah, excellent. That'd be really good. Just I think helicopters would be a bit better if you just want to idle and look at stuff. Really. What's my favourite isotope? Well, the scariest one is probably cobalt 60. Thankfully, I don't have any cobalt 60. Strontium 90 is always fun, just because it does horrible things if it gets in your body. So obviously, don't get in your body. But strontium 90 is very good for testing Geiger counters for beta radiation. But probably radium 226, I'd say, is my favourite isotope, just because it gives off alpha, beta, and gamma. You know, has an interesting legacy with both good and bad things happening. That's americinium 241 in those coal, St. Michael. Wow, it's what they planned to use. Thankfully, they weren't ever used, but there was a thing called a salted cobalt bomb, which was a doomsday weapon. The idea basically being that it spread cobalt everywhere, and the gamma range of all the cobalt would kill everything on Earth. Yeah, thank you, Altrix. Don't forget to like the stream, everybody. But that was the plot of Doctor Strangelove. That's what the doomsday weapon is. That cobalt thorium G. I don't think there ever was a mix of cobalt and thorium being used in bombs, but the thing in Doctor Strangelove was essentially a giant salted cobalt bomb would destroy the world as a doomsday weapon. Favorite tank, Challenger 2, but they're apparently getting rid of it now. Out of older tanks, probably the T-55, T-72, the Centurion. I like all those kind of early to late Cold War sort of tanks. Sadly, Bob, it won't let anybody put links in except for mods. What did Military Madness ask? And I can answer him. He said, what is the cheapest Gen 1 NVG unit I could get, and where could I get him? If you just want a very basic Gen 1, probably just one of those recycled Soviet sort of tubes into slightly more modern electronics. A Cyclops is generally pretty cheap. And no, that's because it's an honest title. I just couldn't think of a witty title. That's very cool, Sync Man. Centurions were brilliant tanks, though, weren't they? Oh yeah, that's the point, because I've even got one of those and I forgot. A Yukon MVMT 1X24, at least I think it's that one, is it? The one that's like a really tiny one. Hang on. I think it might even be in here. Oh no, this is the Minox, isn't it? This one, but yeah. This will technically be like the cheapest night vision you could probably buy. But yeah. But yeah, this is another one. The Minox ones are only like £50 brand new. The only issue with these is they're massively let down by the optics on them. Even though the tube inside is all right, you'll find the issue is with these that basically, I've got the cap on, so let's see if I can turn it on. I think the batteries might have died in it, unless I'm pressing the wrong one. Oh no, the batteries aren't dead. Hang on. It's horribly out of focus. But let me just take the cap off for a moment. I know I shouldn't do that. I'm just trying to see if it actually is going to focus at all. Right, there we go. So get that one focused. That's better. All right, that's better. Right, I'll only show it you briefly, obviously, because you shouldn't have night vision on in the room. But yeah, this is probably the cheapest night vision. Oh, that's interesting. Right, yeah. I've not looked into it at all, Jamie Fisher. The thing is with a lot of the COD games, I find they become very repetitive very quickly. You know, if there's a COD game that tickles your fancy with what the content's going to be in it, by all means get it. But, you know, to me, COD games aren't very interesting. You know, I like kind of simulators, weird games like Stalker. I bought Chernobyl recently, but I haven't really played any of it yet. Cheap and robust. What budget range, Crazy Egg? Because it really depends on your budget range. Because by cheap, when you talk about like radiation detectors and like night vision, cheap doesn't necessarily mean cheap, even low end stuff. But what's Shipbreaker about, Zinkman? Let me Google it. I'm always up for suggestions if it's something I would actually like. Shipbreaker. Oh, so is it like a sci-fi thing where you break up? Ah, like a sci-fi salvage thing. That's pretty cool. Can't tell you what, Callum. But yeah, Crazy Egg, say what sort of budget you have in mind, and then I can give you an idea. But if you're looking at only like $30 to $50, you're probably only going to find old, kind of late Soviet and Ukrainian like little detectors like the Bereg. So like for 30 quid, you can actually buy a few new detectors from China for that sort of price. So that might be what you want to do. But something like the Bereg style ones and like the old you know, like, well, I say old, but you know, like end of the Soviet Union era miniature detectors, basically, where they had the thing of going, Chernobyl happened, you know, we kind of need to make more detectors just for people to know what's going on. And that's what basically these are. But you can buy new Geiger counters from China on places like AliExpress and eBay, and some of them are all right, but, you know, it depends what you want, because the thing is with Geiger counters, you can quite often get into the thing of wanting more and more and more features from them, you know, and having a consistently, you know, higher expectations of what they should do. That sounds good. Yeah, I am a gas mask guy. I collect other things but gas masks, but yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely going to get into Chernobylite. It's just because I bought Chernobylite and Flight Simulator on the same day. At the moment, I'm more into Flight Simulator, and it costs more, so there's that reason. Yeah, I'm not a fan of it just in Vapor, but the FPS bit in it's quite good. I think if they did that for the entire film, I'd have liked it a lot more, but I suppose that's what Hardcore Henry sort of was, wasn't it? They apparently Military Madness. Unfortunately, they're quite hard to find because Hype sold me the one I've got. I really like it just because it came with that massive bit of strontium 90 in it, which is really good for you know, stress testing some of the detectors. Yeah, I've played Papers, Please. Oh, that's a cool thing to go into. Keegan Plays. It's the only, weirdly, when I did like physics and biology and all that at school, I thought it was really boring. But I think that's because none of the teachers made it interesting. Now I find nuclear physics stuff really interesting. You know, if I could go back in time, I know people are like, oh, you can always make, you know, decisions, whatever. If I could go back in time, I'd have probably, and I like had all the interests in it, I'd have probably really wanted to try hard in, you know, like physics and then go into advanced physics, because, you know, I do find it really, really interesting now, but it's just one of those things at the time when I was a kid, you know, I did not care about physics. Um, for one running in your house, Camus, you'd probably want one that you can run off a USB, just so it charges the batteries when, you know, like a PC's not on or whatever, because you don't really want a Geiger counter that runs on batteries all the time, because you're going to constantly be changing the batteries. So you can run that one in the background there. They brought out more modern versions of this, which are probably better. But this type, let me just plug a USB into it so you can see it running. This is like a Chinese one, that uses, I've cut a hole in the back, look, so you can see the tube in it. It just uses the standard little Chinese tubes. But you can run them just off a USB. So if you put one of these on like a USB, you could literally have it on 24/7 if you plugged it onto one of those little USB things. All right, David. So these are actually pretty good for what they are. They're certainly not robust enough to, take around with you, this particular model, but they are all right. It did used to click, but I shoved, as you can see, the piezoelectric speaker on there has been a bit vandalized by me because I got annoyed of it clicking without a function of turning the clicking off. Yeah, the Kursk, that's the Widowmaker, isn't it? Or was that K-19? But I know there's a lot of horrible Soviet submarine and Russian submarine disasters. Oh, and the reason it's going so high, in case anybody was scared, is just because I've got the UV light on, and UV gets into this Geiger tube and makes it go high, as you can see. If I flick that off, you'll notice it will start going down again. But yeah, with Geiger counters, if they have these glass tubes, you ideally need the glass in the tube to be... I've unplugged it and it started going now. That's weird. Right, I guess it's not completely fucked on the batteries in there then, but... Oh, it's that conversation we were having earlier, wasn't it? Or what the other day about everybody always blaming somebody else rather than taking responsibility. So it's either the Russians, it's the Chinese, it's the Americans, it's the Brits. It's that kind of, it's like, yes, sometimes people are to blame for things, but also there's sometimes things when you need to fix a problem rather than just pointing fingers. The beautiful face mask I've got, Istvan, is absolutely awful. Because, you could have a really good Chinese panoramic mask like this one, the MF11D, or you could have one that's complete dog shit like the Pewter. Because on this one, it's got a comfortable head harness, and when you tighten the straps, they tighten, they don't fly off. Which one are you looking at? The one with the hose on it? There's two actually like that in the background. There's a Soviet GP4 there, which probably technically has like some sort of shum name. And then there's the PDF, but that's not its original hose. That's a longer one I put on there. But yeah, they're all Soviet civil defense masks. Yeah, it's obviously too small for me. It's one for children. All right, Bops. Okay, so Carl says, cheesy gas mask question, but my M65 by Draeger has a very crooked lens and it bugs me a lot. Is there a way I bought any? The only thing that you could do to rectify it, because that's probably just it's been stored with weight on it for too long, is basically fill it with paper. So stuff the mask with paper and hope that if you do that for long enough, it just regains its shape. It's probably somebody's, I think, put a load of weight on it in a satchel or something. It's just bent over years of being like that. Yeah, so Pewter is like, the one that makes shit. And then, so it's Plant 908 subsidiary, which makes some cool stuff. I'll always forget that, but I do know Pewter's shit. Oh, that's very cool, Marcus. Thank you. You have to let me know as well when you've got an address and you want those Israeli blowers sent to you. All right, I'll watch that when you do upload it, Bots. But yeah, at the moment, I'm doing that thing where I don't think I've watched any of your videos in a while, because I kind of do the thing where I binge watch videos. Then I don't watch a video on a certain subject for a while. Then I watch them again. There's quite a lot of choice, Keegan. At the moment, it's hard to say what's a good mask for the money because they fluctuate in price so much. So it's right. I'm going to probably butcher the pronunciation of that. Is it Shanzi or Zhangzi? Shanzi Xinhua. I have no idea how that'd be pronounced. Shanghai? I don't know. Not reliably, Caleb. I mean, there's ways you can get bottles and bags and make a filter system for it, but, not very well. Do you like the Aviva? I'd say the MSA 410 is better, Philip, out of the two, but the Aviva's still pretty good for what it is. I mean, I like the fact it's a half face mask that takes 40mm filters because that's practical. Favorite helmet? Out of all the helmets I own for actual practicality, especially if I got some more attachments for it, this one, which is the British basically version of the ECH, called the Virtus helmet or something dumb like that. Cobra Battle Skin Revision 2, I think its name. It's basically a US ECH because we buy them under license from America. But you tighten it just at the back with one of these little dials, so it's easy to adjust to your head size. Has a comfortable chin strap, and it's made from thermoplastic. So the stuff that will actually stop rifle rounds. That doesn't mean your head will survive the impact, but the helmet is basically not going to break if shot with most rifle rounds, pistol rounds, shrapnel, stuff like that. Right, the Mark III duel was brought in during World War II to replace the Mark II, like the flat helmet, the sort of traditional Tommy Brody helmet style helmets. The Mark IIIs were brought in to replace them, and they're a pretty good helmet because obviously they give good head coverage. They're a good quality steel. They were eventually replaced by Mark IVs, though, which I think just had the liner attached in a different way. But yeah, Mark IIIs are pretty good helmets. They gave good head coverage. They look a bit goofy, but they were cheap to produce and gave good protection. So, they're not bad helmets. Mark IIIs. I do like the Mark III and the Mark IV because we kept them in service for quite a long time, but it's just a simple steel pot helmet. I think it was about £250 Military Madness. That's because it was a completely unissued one, isn't meant to happen. But when I got it, completely brand new, had not been worn, wasn't sweaty, no damage to the pads. And because this is, the next thing up from Kevlar, these helmets are expensive. I imagine ECHs cost a lot in America. Because I know even a lot of Americans who like buying helmets to shoot them don't buy ECHs to shoot them because of how much they cost. No problem, Zinkman. What was the thing I helped you with? But thank you again, Russian Rooster. I appreciate it. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, sadly, when we were at school, I don't think we had many good books in the school library. But I did have one of the best teachers I had was actually my history teacher, just because he was one of those teachers that really kind of got you into the lesson. Paskets are fine, Wimby. The design is really famous and good, but it depends on the generation of the Pasket. Because original US Paskets, I think, are Kevlar level 2. Later Paskets are 3A. And other countries that have made copies of the Pasket have made them better and worse than the American ones. All right, have a good evening, Hype. I'll send you some screenshots from Flight Simulator on Discord if I remember of where my house is and that. All right, I call Zinkman, but yeah, so particle protection and stuff like that on the filters. Probably having a bit of organic vapor on the filter wouldn't hurt as well, just to stop the smells getting through, giving you a headache or a light sort of headed. And yeah, what Bot says is a good point as well, because don't forget, different helmets have different liners, and a helmet can literally be made or, make or break with a helmet if it's a good or bad liner. Just because, I've got a Pasket copy that the British Armed Police use, and in my opinion, the helmet liner in it is so over-engineered, I hate it. I can never get it comfortable because it's got so many little bits you can tighten and loosen. I can't get it comfortable. If they did a simpler liner, I'd have liked it. But for some people, it's the opposite problem. There's just liners that they find too simple. Again, it's going to be hard to define best, but if you mean surplus that turns up reliably, I'd say Israeli M15 style masks, British S10s, or any of the Avon FM12 style ones, Canadian C4s, USM 40s. So I'm just not going to replace this now as my good helmet just because it's basically the equivalent of an ECH and it's a crazy protective filler. Now, if more companies started making different shaped helmets with this kind of filler in it, that my opinion might change. But at the moment, this is definitely the most protective helmet I've got, just because it's that weird milk bottle kind of material that stops bullets, which is kind of crazy. Because somebody was talking about helmets earlier, Owen, so I put one on. M1 shouldn't be too expensive, Bob. What sort of budget are you looking at? Because you can get copies of the M1, which would behave pretty much the same in terms of ballistics, which would be cheaper. Right. The long name of it is something like the Cobra Battle Skin Revision 2. Agnostic Libertarian. I was going to call you Agnostic Librarian then. But in Britain, they were called part like the Virtus helmet or Virtus Revision, it was basically an upgrade thing. But yeah, it's basically just the American ECH, but slightly different. But yeah, if you want something that's similar to, like I did in a video recently, similar to the US M1, that sometimes turns up really cheaply, French M51 helmets. Basically, it's a rip-off of the M1, slightly different shape. And, they end up quite cheap in some places. Also, with M1s, you can often get lots of European countries clones of the M1 helmet, like the licensed copies, which, again, it's pretty much just an M1 helmet. Some of them have slightly different strap systems and whatever, but sometimes they can be way cheaper. No, I don't have a Mitch. I've not got a US Pasca. I've got a US Pasca vest, weirdly, but I don't have a US Pasca helmet. I've got a British Armed Police copy of the Pasca helmet. It's obviously made under license, but it's not a proper Pasca. So I don't have many actual proper American. Yeah, saying that, I probably don't have any proper American helmets because my M1 I have is not an actual original American M1. It's one of the European copies of the M1. And I don't have a Pasca. I don't have the Mitch. I don't have an ACH. I don't have an ECH. Closest I have to an ECH is this. And this technically isn't an American helmet. It's a British one, but it is American because it's made in America and we just buy them under license. But wow, Keegan, I don't think humans are doing a very good job to the planet, are we? It's almost no surprise if something was to wipe all of us out. Maybe we deserved it, but. Oh, I find him, Owen, interesting, like lots of military, probably a few £100, but it depends. Obviously, you can buy helmets that offer no protection if you just wanted one to be a helmet very cheaply, but the problem, Gooman, is if I could get a legit one for a reasonable price, I would get one of the old cool Russian helmets or the Soviet helmets. The issue is lots of them. There's lots of fakes floating about, and the prices are extortionate. And in terms of protection, other than the face protection, this actually offers better ballistic protection just because of the material it's made out of. £15. Right, Dual Link. For £15, if you're very lucky, you might be able to get a British Mark II, Mark III, or a Mark IV helmet, but that's probably unlikely, but sometimes they turn up really cheap. It's unlikely at the moment to get a gas mask for under that price, even if it was an old one, just because of, Corona inflating the prices. But I reckon for £15, you might be able to get an old marching compass, and some of those are quite radioactive if you want to play about with them with Geiger counters. Right, when I say play with radioisotopes, I don't mean do anything dangerous. I mean learn scientifically, but, just not at a lab type setting. Yes, I certainly do, Mark. Right, look at my videos. Sadly, as we were saying earlier, there's not really budget friendly stuff with night vision. The cheapest night vision scope, Hype said about one earlier, and I can't remember the name of it. The cheapest one I've got is, let me get it back out again to show you. The cheapest one you can easily buy, I found, is these Minox ones or Minox ones. They're made in Russia. The optics let them down on this because they're very small, sort of cheap optics, but the actual light amplification isn't bad for a Gen 1. The one you might be able to sometimes get for a good price, but you're going to have to probably fit your own camera lens to it, is one of these, the Cyclops. Because basically these screw on with a camera thread. So basically, and it's not a standard lens type, it's like an old lens type. But this is a night vision where you, you know, if you put your own thing on, the optics are at least a bit better. The problem is with Gen 1s, right? Don't get me wrong, playing about with Gen 1s is really cool. But if you want really good night vision, you're going to have to go to Gen 1 Plus at a minimum, probably Gen 2, because it is literally a night and day difference between Gen 2 and Gen 1. If you look at my recent videos I've done with that British Gen 2 night vision scope, the big one, the, what's it called, something 101 scope? I'm trying to think of the name of it. That is so clear and, you know, bright in the dark compared to a Gen 1. I've got a flare. Hang on. If you want to see a flare... Oh, actually, I need to see if this camera thing will fit on my... This Canon cap might fit on my old night vision. But, yeah. I've got a flare. I've got the TK Scout, which I've done some videos with as well. It's very low resolution, but it is a flare camera. So, you know, that's cool and interesting. So if I put that there, when it loads up, you'll see that... Let me just take the eye cup off, actually, because then I can probably show it to you easier on the camera. But, yeah, so, there we go. So, because it's a flare, you obviously get the funny thing of, you know, my glasses reflect the light. But, yeah, flares are interesting. Let me just change the color thing. You can use them in the daylight as well, like night vision. Let's do a color-coded one. There you go. So obviously you can see that I glow hot because, see the Nixie tube, the heat coming off the Nixie tube lamp in the background? Of course, you can have it just on the classic, you know, white or black hot if you want to as well. You know, like that's white hot. So obviously I glow white. Right, I'll go back to the chat now because I've probably missed a load of things. Sadly, I've not seen any night vision with purple tint. I know they can, in theory, have it because it depends on what kind of phosphor screen they use. But yeah, nearly all of them use green just because green is really visible to the human eye. That's cool, Mark. The thing is with digital night vision, some digital night vision is getting really good now, but it's kind of still quite a bit behind the old analogs. Did somebody say, what don't I have in this room? Yeah, that's what Philip said. Yeah, that's a very good thing, you know. What don't I have in this room? There's probably a lot I don't have in this room, but, you know. You'd have to really test it, Caleb. Like, this one works quite well with lots of masks, just simply because of this thing in it, where you just ratchet this bit back, put the mask on, and then ratchet it closed. But it really does vary between helmets and masks. Not the Czech M1 Excluzone, that's the Yugoslavian M1. Mine hasn't melted, but a lot of people have reported it online, including people like Duke Nougat, so I totally believe it would happen. I think it's just a case of cheapo rubbers, you know, like they use cheap rubbers that don't react very well to certain, who knows, but... Nothing illegal, Peter. I think I've got like snap caps or something in here, you know, like little small ones you can throw and pop, but... I mean, saying about explosives, actually... Let's hope this doesn't violate YouTube's rules on guns. I do technically have explosives, but these are obviously inert. They're deactivated. See, you can see that the grenade's got nothing in it. But, so yeah, there are technically explosives in here, I guess, in a way. I can try it, Military Madness, but I don't think that would do much because the flare sees heat. It's a different kind of infrared, right? So basically, I know there are stuff that's designed to block heat, and that would affect the flare. But the flare sees what's called long-wave infrared. Like, the type of infrared night vision sees is short-wave infrared, if I remember right. Like, it's the closer bit to the visible spectrum. The flare, because it sees longer-wave infrared, kind of doesn't see the same stuff, like night vision sees. So if you're on about stuff like, say, that check camouflage, the one that looks different under night vision, that's something that would react with shortwave infrared, but not stuff like the flare, because the flare just simply sees heat. It doesn't actually matter, what the camo pattern is or whatever else. It just sees heat, You can't see, like pictures with a flare. If I had a poster on the wall like that one, you look at it with the flare, it just looks like a blank sheet because it sees the heat of it, not what the actual, stuff is. My least favourite gas mask has already said that pewter one I've got is absolute crap. Yeah, I've done videos on stuff like that before, Military Madness, with some of my cheaper night visions or just like, standard IR night vision cameras, like the digital stuff. And again, British MTP stuff isn't all that amazing when it comes to not reacting to IR light. It's passable, but it's not all that good. The Czech stuff is the best stuff I've Well, at the moment, Gooman, I don't think you can do at airsoft sites because of Corona. I've done airsoft before, but I don't have like an airsoft UCARA thing. So the AEG I've got, unfortunately, is two-tone. What was Keegan's question? I must have missed it. Cheers, Agnostic Libertarian. I appreciate it. But yeah, Mark Felton does lots of good videos, doesn't he, on like some of the more weird bits of history. If somebody earlier was asking me, do I fear nuclear war? I think if nuclear war happened, you'd be so dead it's almost not anything to worry about. But the possibility obviously exists that it could happen, so I guess it's always there. But yeah, I'd certainly, Keegan, think that there could be more nuclear power style disasters, certainly. Like damage to reactors, because Fukushima was fairly recent, damage to reactors, human error, all that sort of stuff. Over time, they get safer, but there's still always, lost radiotherapy sources. There's always risks with stuff like that, like radiation risks. But yeah, I think a nuclear power accident is a lot more likely than nuclear war. Do I think Chernobyl could happen again? Nothing as bad as Chernobyl. Let's hope. Would there be power plant accidents that would release radiation? Almost certainly. Would there be a thing of somebody blowing up a fucking reactor because, we're doing a safety test, lol? Yes and no, Agnostic Libertarian. The thing is, thorium isn't totally clean. Don't get me wrong. Thorium is still radioactive. I think thorium would be safer, yes, but don't believe anybody if they say thorium isn't radioactive or isn't harmful. I mean, the main reason thorium obviously wasn't used historically is you can't enrich thorium to use it in nuclear weapons like you could with uranium, because a lot of nuclear power plants are obviously used partly for enriching uranium at the same time as being nuclear, sources of power. That's cool, Bob. I have a West German firefighter's helmet, which is kind of like a Stahlhelm variant of that. But yeah, I definitely agree with you there, Mark. Certainly a lot better than digging out coal, isn't it? Yeah, please subscribe to this channel, Military Madness, and I watch his videos every now and again when he does when I'm sort of interested in the subject on. But yeah, The funny thing recently, Mark, is did you hear that like those Extinction Rebellion nut jobs got really upset because one of their scientific members actually said nuclear was good for the environment? Any Danish equipment, right? Man like MB, unfortunately, a lot of Danish stuff was just licensed copies of other people's stuff. So basically, like Denmark bought a lot of old British respirators to use. I've got a Danish copy of an American M1 helmet, but again, it's a copy of another helmet. So I've got a bit of Danish stuff, but unfortunately, most of it is just literally copies of other people's stuff, you know, done under license or whatever. So it's not any domestically built Danish stuff, unfortunately. Yeah, that was my point, Mark, that you can't really turn it into bomb fuel, can you? In the same way. Basically, Ryan. Well, I suppose that lead could be used to bludgeon somebody, couldn't it? But yeah, like as Sparrow says, you can get amazing power, can't you, from nuclear reactors? Also, what I think a lot of research should be put into is working out what to do with nuclear waste material, because I think if you did put more R&D into it, a lot of that could be recycled into really useful other forms of energy. You know, like strontium 90 can be used as a heat source. And the Soviets actually made heat source batteries for strontium 90 in old like lighthouses. Um, but you know, I think there needs to be more R&D done into like nuclear waste and how to make use of it. Ah, that's very cool. So you got PNV 10T. Which particular model is that one? Someone is that one of the Russian ones, or is that an American one? Ah, yeah, that's similar to the one I did a video with, wasn't it? That Hype sent me. Yeah, that is a very good night vision kit. That's I think it might be that one or a very similar model that I was sent to do a video with and then sent to Laser Point Productions. But yeah, Russians make really good night vision. Yeah, again, Mark, I'm not smart enough to really comment on that stuff. But again, I think the problem with a lot of people become anti-nuclear. They just look at the bad stuff that's been done with nuclear and not, you know, not what it could become. Oh yes, that's a very, very old experience, even or Evan. That was when I was probably like 6 or 7. That was creepy. It was like almost like a bogey as a face. But yeah, I can remember that. Ah, it's very cool, Bob. You've got his old Enfield. The helmet I've got, this is a British Virtus helmet, someone, or Battle Skin Cobra Revision 2. It's basically an American ECH with a bit of a band on it. It literally, though, is fundamentally an ECH with a different liner inside it. Because, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's made by the same company that makes the ECH. I don't actually know, Sparrow. Well, you can't get cheap S10s, unfortunately, Haggard, unless you really luck out on eBay or at a car boot sale or somewhere, because at the moment, people sell S10s for crazy money because of Corona. Another 10 minutes. My throat's getting a bit dry now from all the talking, so I'm going to go get a drink. Probably not alcohol tonight because I drank a lot yesterday. Drink some more like water or something, then carry on with Flight Simulator. Which one's the MSR? These particular helmets fit lots of gas masks, though, just simply because of the tightening system. So because you tighten them like that, you can fit them with a hell of a lot of things, and obviously you can take pads in and out if you want to change space for it. What type of filter? Straight 60s or particle filters or combination filters? At the moment, just a boring Cessna one, Philip, just because I'm learning, you know, the mechanics of the game and more going, oh, isn't it cool that they've satellite mapped the, you know, Earth? Oh, it really is, Sparrow. Yeah, it's literally because you've got all those pads and then obviously you adjust it just right for your head using that. And the chin strap's fairly comfortable. This is one of those helmets where I could literally wear it for hours and it wouldn't bother me. Because, yeah, you just obviously do that. I've pre-adjusted these straps to obviously get it the right size for my chin and all that. And then, yeah, just tighten that to the point where it's not really crushing your head. Yeah, nice snug fit. Absolutely fine. And it doesn't weigh all that much either because of the material it's made out of. Is that the M2000 you're thinking of, Agnostic Libertarian? The Draeger M2000? I don't have one of those, so I'm afraid I can't test it for you. It looks like a really cool mask, but I don't have it. Huh, don't know why, Stuart. They should be, with what's going on. Oh, exactly, Keegan, and also using some of the other bits for radiotherapy and whatever else. I know we do that anyway, but, you know, I'm sure there's a lot more that could be done with it. But yeah, if you just want to see how, other than having to adjust the chin strap or get an extended chin strap, obviously that is one factor, just to demonstrate this helmet works with various masks. Take my glasses off. Right, so I know there's not a filter on this at the moment, so let me just stick a filter on it. So Canadian C4. So that goes on with this one absolutely fine. And to get a completely different looking mask to sort of prove the point. Oh shit. That didn't break. This one, I know I've not got a filter on it, but that's not important for this sort of test. See, this actually slots on pretty well as well, where that sort of goes to that bit. So yeah, obviously some helmets do fit better than others, but yeah, for the most part, the this helmet is really good for just working with masks because of how the liner works. Now, I'm afraid I can't show you the S10 at the moment because it's in a bag on that shelf and I'm finishing the stream in about 1 minute. But yeah. Yeah, it's a good idea to wear a mask out in public, especially because lots of other people don't wear masks. So, you know, they're not doing anything to protect you from their germs. So, you know, like as you were saying, wear a mask and protect yourself. Let me Google them. Hydrogen fluoride cartridge. Let's see if I've seen this type before. So they're ones on AliExpress, are they? Are they the ones that look like they go on the 3M ones? Or are they like 40mm ones? Oh, the GSR. This does work with the GSR because it's obviously the current helmet Britain uses, and they're currently using the GSR as their respirator. So yeah, they go together. Right, cool. See a dual link DVI-D cable. I have actually used some Chinese copies of the 3M disc ones. I've only ever used them as particle filters though, not ones for any sort of vapor. Those aren't really designed for vapor though, so they might be mislabeled if they're claiming they're for vapor if they're the flat disc ones, because they're just literally a particle pad. No, I don't particularly like the GSR, but it does work with this helmet. Draeger M65s, wow, a while ago they used to be $20 to $30 or pounds or probably euros, but now they're probably going up, aren't they, because of Corona? Which particular filter for the GP4 XX Arctic Sniper? EO14 style filters they were issued with. I think EO16s, the smaller EO16 style filters that I can never remember the name of. Does it mention on that poster? I'm just looking where it says 1. Does it have a write-up? No, I think it just literally said it's a filter. But they're like the EO16 filters, just a bit shorter, I think, that they issued with them. Same as like the GP5 kits with the hoses. At the moment, I am not spending any more on gas masks. I am saving my money for the bunker. And I am actually getting pretty good at that now. Whenever I get a payday, I literally move like 80% of my money from my pay slips straight to my savings account, so I can't splurge it on like masks and Geigers at the moment. Yeah, Agnostic Libertarian. I'm saving up for a bunker because they're cheaper than buying a house or a flat over here in the UK, and it's an old bunker that I can restore. So, basically Arctic Sniper, yeah. Look up ROC posts for the people who don't know. They're very small, but for one person, I could manage it. If you install a cable and all that into them, yes, bots. Surviving the Apocalypse has some sort of router thing put in his, or router, however you want to say it, that works for his. Not like a standard router, but, you know, one that gives you enhanced signal. Other ones sometimes do get mobile internet in them if they're close enough to a mast. Now, ROC ones are already there, A-Truck Campbell. They were built during the Cold War, and now they're just kind of rusting away because nobody does anything with them. You know, the best things that people do with them are the people who literally buy them are enthusiasts and then restore them and have them as like museums. But because there's so many that are just in disrepair, you can often get them cheap, spend a bit restoring them, and then you've got a little bunker. Yeah, they're cool, aren't they, Philip? They're not very big, but, you know, compared to the prices of shit flats where I am, you know, I'd much rather live in an ROC post. Well, not where I currently am, John. If I, like I said, when I move out, if I get land with it, then potentially I would apply for one, but I have no need for a firearms certificate at the moment. And because I've got a couple of antique guns anyway that don't need to come under a firearms license, you know, I don't need that for that. If you can get planning permission to do it, A-Truck Campbell, otherwise it'd have to be a non-permanent structure. But yeah, depends what land you get with them, because obviously you get different ones for sale now and again that come with different sort of amounts of land. Anyway, I'll be off. Oh, hello, Peach. I'm afraid I'm just going off now if you just come on. Mark, apparently for the ones that sell, you know, not the people who want silly money for them, the ones that sell normally go for between £20,000 and £30,000 with a little bit of land with them. But bear in mind, I think a lot of that's going to depend on how much you need to restore it, how easy it is to access the site of where they are, you know, location in the UK. I imagine one near the sort of London area is going to go for a lot more just because of location, you know, whereas one in the middle of bumfuck nowhere, as much as, you know, the middle of bumfuck nowhere is probably a nicer place to live than in the middle, like near London. You know, they're the ones that end up going cheaper generally because a lot of people don't want to live in remote places. And unfortunately, though, with Corona, I think more people are going now, oh, I want to buy houses out of the city, which now means it's going to inflate prices even more everywhere else. Don't know, Spoopy the Doopy. If you want an honest answer, I really don't know. I've just always found, you know, history of warfare, weapons and stuff like that interesting. We're probably having our second wave soon, Lafargy. So not good. Schools are back soon, so the numbers are probably going to get worse. But anyway, see you, everybody. It's been a good stream tonight. I've really enjoyed it. Have a good evening, everybody. Right. See you all. Goodbye.